This podcast includes explicit language and sensitive topics that some may find offensive.
All views expressed belong to the individual speaking and not a representation of any entity that we have been, am now, or will be affiliated with. It's your chance to back out now.
That being said, if not, enjoy the show.
Previously on The Black Man Misunderstood.
So I emptied that truck so quick, bro. Bruh.
You try to get it back?
Bruh, I was getting it back because I'm like, y'all ain't charging me extra for nothing. I already paid $2,000 for this thing. And I had to come up with that $2,000, bruh. Chill.
Yo.
Bruh.
Black man, misunderstood.
It's your boy Mike B.
In the neighborhood therapist.
Welcome back to The Black Man Misunderstood. Here we discuss topics about the black man that others are afraid to speak on. I am your host, Mike B, and this is episode 15 of season 4. It's the season finale, y'all. And of course, joining me as always, my brother, the neighborhood therapist, but I call him Jus. Introduce yourself to the people, brother.
Justice Payne Tyson, the neighborhood therapist. Please put some respect on it. There's only one. That's it.
And today we have a special guest. It's one of the leaders from my church. He's actually the leader of our men's group. I would like to introduce you all to Pastor Forrest Fleming.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm glad to be on here. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I am so glad I had this opportunity to come and share and give some input. I just turned 50, so I think I have a little something to say for guys that's maybe a little younger or approaching that journey on that journey to that number. So hopefully, man, I'm ready to rock and roll, man. This is gonna be good. I'm excited.
All right, before we get to the questions, so you guys are probably wondering, what's the name of this episode? So the episode is called Mentorship, the Balancing Act. We're going to get a little bit more into it, but then we're going to get into the questions. So first of all, Pastor Forrest, let's let the listeners in on yourself a little bit. What do you do for a living, sir?
Well, right now I do sales. I'm the regional sales director for a window treatment company, but I also do ministry. As you mentioned earlier, I am director of Fight Club. I came to Tampa in 2019 to start my own church, and then COVID happened, right? And so I was asked to come back to crossover, and so I did that. I've been there back for going on 4 years now, and Pastor Tommy asked me to lead the men. And so I always felt it was something that God had put in my heart and my spirit to do. And I'm glad I came back because I did it at the right church. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about seeing men's lives change. And I'm very optimistic about what God's going to do in this next chapter with the men. So.
Cool. It's on you, brother.
Okay. All right. You ready to jump right in?
Sure.
All right, cool. So I want to throw some definitions at you. I want to get your take on it. And this is for all of us.
Yeah.
Mentor, leader, or both. Is it the same or is there a difference?
It's different. You can be a leader and not be a mentor. But every mentor has to be a leader. Right? If that makes sense. Right? So there are some guys I lead, but I wouldn't waste my time being a mentor because when people say they want a mentor, a lot of times they don't. They want a companion. A mentor should take you to the next level. A mentor should push you. He should drive you. He should give you things that you can chew on for 3 or 4 months. A mentor is not somebody that you call every day, right? It ain't your best friend. It ain't your buddy. He's somebody that is helping you on this journey called life, get to that next level or help you reach your goals. Or I call my mentor probably once every 3 or 4 months. But he gives me enough nuggets to where I don't need to call him. And when I do call him, he picks up because he knows I don't call him just to kick the bobo. I call him because it's something of a level of importance. And I think a lot of times men get that. They get mentor. Here's the thing: a lot of guys say they want a mentor, they don't. They want somebody to fill a daddy void that wasn't there, right? And so you have these expectations of this mentor being your buddy, being somebody you can call, somebody you can hang out with, somebody you can. That's not what a mentor is.
I respect it. I
Yeah.
respect it. In all honesty, I would answer the same way as Pastor Forrest. You have to be a leader to be a mentor. But wait, was it a leader be a mentor, or was it the other way around? Hold
Every
on.
mentor has to be a leader.
Yes, every mentor has to be a leader, but not every leader has to be a mentor. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely see a difference. In my honest opinion, I can honestly I can piggyback off of what Pastor Forrest said about men trying to find that father figure. Because when I was younger, I had that, but after a certain point, I think I grew in looking for a mentor to like for wisdom. It wasn't even just like to hang out or anything like that. It was just like he said, get those nuggets that I can chew on and think about over time. And honestly, I can say I probably have a couple of different mentors at this point now that I listen to, and when I get that information from, I take it and I run with it and eat it for a couple of months until I need the next one. So I could definitely say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very easy to weed out who wants mentorship and who wants companionship. Just give that mentee something. I always tell guys, okay, well, I need you to read this book and give me a summary within the next 2 weeks of what you read. Or you give them a task to see how bad they want it, or do they just want to hang out with you? There's a lot of guys, especially when it comes to church men, and I get it. And it's a balancing act because there's so many men who pull on me all the time, and it's like, okay, if you want to hang out, bro, just say you want to hang out, right? But don't tell me you want a mentor because I know you don't. I know you don't. You're not ready for a mentor. Some of them. So people will suck your time, suck the life out you if you allow them to. So you just have to be mindful. You got to have discernment. Like if I tried to mentor every man at the church that approaches me, bro, I would never have time for anything. And a lot of times it would just be a waste of my time.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that. Bro, you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean it's really quick. Anytime I think of mentor and leader, I think of Bruce Leroy. For those of y'all that's too young, look it up.
Oh yeah, that was the movie, man, back in the
Right.
80s. Oh, that was yeah.
I think of Bruce Leroy and how he just kept saying, Master, I don't know everything. Master, you didn't teach me everything. That's a mentor to me. The way that he was teaching him, and then the way he dipped up out of it. Now, I'm not gonna ruin it for y'all those that ain't watched it, but the way he dipped up out of there, it wasn't the way he may have wanted to leave up out of there, but he gave him enough jewels, enough damage control, and enough discipline to go and finish the movie the way he needed to finish the movie. So that's what I think of when I think of mentor. And I always thought about that when I was younger. When I watched that, I was like, oh, that's a mentor. Bruce Leroy ended up being a leader. There's a difference. My opinion.
But he did something in the movie that was very and a lot of people miss this point is he stretched their thinking, right? So I mentor a guy, and he was saying, he was like, I hate when my people call me and for stuff that they should already know. I said, well, do you give them the answer? He said, well, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I said, well, you should give them 70% of what they need to do and let them figure out the other 30. Why? Because as a mentor, I'm supposed to stretch you. If I give you the answer every time, I'm enabling you. I'm not stretching your thought process. If I call my mentor with a problem, the first things he says is, what are your 3 solutions to the problem? It's a standard. I don't call him without 3 solutions to what I think it should be. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes he'll say, no, that's not how you handle that. Handle it this way. So, we have to be mindful of that when we talk to men, because if I give you the answer all the time, it's just like a teacher giving a kid an answer in school. What are you learning? If I'm giving you the answer, what are you learning?
Yeah, so true.
But if I give you the formula, let you work the formula, I've given you 70%. of how to figure it out. If you work the formula the right way, you'll get the answer, right? A lot of times people come to you and they want the answer. Well, I'm not going to give you the full answer.
Yeah,
Guys I mentor, I never give them the full answer.
yeah. They want to be spoon
They want,
fed.
and you're not learning, you're not growing if I continually just give you the answer. So
Yep.
hopefully that helps somebody.
No, respect. So, all right, with us as black men, I know more nowadays than not. I think we play so many different roles. You know, protector, father, son, a father when we're not supposed to be a father to other siblings sometimes. And then when we get older, we got our jobs, then we have our own kids, and then we participate at church. We coach a youth team, all this stuff. How do we balance it all without losing our own sanity?
Well, there's a few ways I can answer that. One, I'll say it goes back to your priority. What is your priorities, right? Priorities puts things in perspective. Okay. So if I say one of my priorities is, and my mentor, he talked about that night he came to speak to us, spoke to us, right? So one of the things he really gets on me is, okay, you want to do something to your question. You want to do something in the community, right? You want to help. That's one of your priorities is you want to change the narrative and help some of these young black males or young black men who are who fathers are not in their lives or whatever. Okay, so I need to prioritize because with priorities comes sacrifice. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice to accomplish my priority? Right. So, and that's why I tell guys, you just can't fly off the handle and say, "Oh, I want to do this." Okay, you need to sit down and realize, okay, how much time a week do I have to sacrifice to dedicate to these kids? Right. If I say, okay, I got 25 hours a week to dedicate to those kids. That's just what it is because a lot of times we can get so wrapped up into doing things and we over sacrifice and then our family pays the price for it, right? When I first started my church, I didn't realize how often I was gone, right? So my priorities were I was pursuing my priorities, but I was sacrificing more than I think I should have because I was never home. They flying me to this conference, flying me to that conference, flying me here. Oh, you need to go take this class. So, and then my daughter hit me one day. She said, "Dad, you're never home. You're never home." And I said, "Well, but Daddy's just trying to do this. I'm trying to do this for us for later on, blah, 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 blah." But it made me bring things back to perspective. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having priorities, but how much am I really willing to sacrifice? And it's something I think as men, a lot of times we just do it and we don't discuss it because men we don't like to talk. So we don't discuss a lot of things with our spouses or our significant others, and we go out and we do things, and we're not realizing that hey, my house is starving. I'm feeding everybody else, but my house is starving, and so we have to have a balance in that. We have to make sure that we balance that, and then you have to let your spouse and your kids know, hey, this is one of my priorities. And this is why daddy is doing this, right? This is why daddy is gone 3 days out of the week sometimes. This is why daddy is here because this is one of my priorities. But it's going to benefit us later on down the road in some capacity, right? And so when my kids were young, they didn't understand that. They have a little bit better understanding now. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Definitely does. Definitely does. Um, and you basically, it's priorities. That's definitely number one. Finding priorities and knowing what to sacrifice and when to sacrifice it at the same time. First, I believe in the last couple of months we've heard that repeated so many different times in so many different ways. Honestly,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna flip the next question a little bit because of something you just said. So we got to know our priorities and we got to know when I sacrifice. And I feel as though those are the two top reasons why we don't see as much black male mentorship. And also going back to something that you said earlier, people just want to be spoon fed instead of actually being mentored. Why? Why aren't we finding as many black male mentors? Or do you think that's not truthful? Because I feel like we have them, but we don't see them as often.
I think the media does a great job at making the issue bigger than what it is because there are a ton of black mentors out there mentoring young black men, right? It's just like, yeah, I mean, a lot of fathers are absent from the house, but there's a lot of men that are in the house. But the media has a way of focusing on what's not happening opposed to what is happening, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times us as black men, we do get a bad rap, right? Because there's all types of programs. And a lot of times, man, this program's out there, but the kids don't show up. There's mentorship programs out there. Like, so my guy Mike, who I talked about a little earlier, he was a psychiatrist. When he was a professor at UAB, they did a study. They took, I want to say it was maybe like 20 young black men, and they mentored these kids. These were inner city kids. Okay. They got a grant to see if they poured into these kids for 4 years. Now, these were inner city kids. Most of them didn't have any father figures. These were kids that you would say were probably destined to go to jail or not
Mm-hmm.
be a honorable person in society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did this study and they walked with these kids for 4 years. Okay. I want to say out of that 20, 13 graduated college, right? You
Mm-hmm.
didn't hear nothing about that in the media, right?
Nope.
But there's pockets of programs like that all over the country that a lot of the fraternities have these programs
Mm-hmm.
that they pour back into these kids. There's a lot, even in the city of Tampa. So when we say it's not enough, it's never going to be enough. If that answers the question, right? There's never going to be enough. But I think we do have to acknowledge that we ain't where we used to be, right? I mean, it has
Mm-hmm.
gotten a lot better. Like I said, I think the media puts a bad spin on it. Like, you know, black men aren't in their home, black men aren't mentoring, and it's not true. We do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think more men need to do more. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole incarceration thing, but there is more for us to do. But I will say, I think a lot of us are doing a decent job, and I think we don't give our black men and black organizations enough credit for doing what they do. We hear a lot. Oh, we need to do more. We don't do enough. Well, there's guys out there sweating and breaking their backs,
Yeah.
with these programs, and don't know how they're gonna get their next dollar because they're getting grants, they're getting private funding from these organizations, and I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on it because I think we don't get enough credit, but I do think as a whole, I think we can do more.
Yeah. No. I would definitely second that same sentiment. I would just season 2. We had a guest from on our fitness episode. His name is Alex Clark. He's originally from CT, but he moved out to DC. He started a whole bike program. And like ever since he's been a guest on our show. The man has been getting rewards, he's been getting grants, monies to help inner city kids in DC. And now he got a whole bike company that's competing all over the DC area in different races. So I definitely yeah, I hear you. They don't get as much publicity as we should, he's definitely one of the few lucky ones that I know that actually gets the publicity. But I know there's plenty others, even back in our hometown in Patterson. I know there's an Omega Teens out there, and they usually have at least 10 to 15 kids in that age group helping them. So yeah, you're definitely right. I see it on both sides.
Oh yeah. And Tampa has a lot of just in Tampa alone, man. There's a lot of African American men doing a lot with these kids, doing a lot with reentry programs for guys coming out of the penal system, but it does a lot of it doesn't get noticed, but it's happening. It really is. So
I think we knocked out both. It's on you, bro.
So let me add this before I go into this darkness, because I'm gonna take this conversation somewhere else.
okay, let's do it.
I'm 100% agreeing with y'all. With you gotta have priorities not to go insane. Okay, but I gotta add two pieces to that. You gotta have a foundation. I've been preaching that all season.
Yep.
You gotta have a foundation. I don't care if you're atheist. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim. You have to have a foundation. You have to believe in something. You have to have some type of start to know where you're going. Which brings me to my third. It's technically my third thing because priorities is second to me. Third is, what is your end goal? What is your end game? That's what stops you from going insane. And I'm speaking for myself personally as a black man. When I wake up, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's my motivator. You see how I'm going? And then I can start checking off my priorities. Okay, how am I going to get there? I got to do this. Okay, that motivates me to keep going. And then when all else fails, we just have that day where it's like, you know what? F all this. I don't want to do this no more. That's when my foundation kicks in, and I can grit. For me, I can say my prayers. I can come back to what I need to come back to, my source, and just ground myself. So I think that's super important. That's going to take me to my next thing about this whole mentorship, this whole leader role. My personal opinion, 100%, I agree with you, Pastor. We got brothers out here, they getting it. I've seen it, right? The problem 100% is social media. It's not even just social media. It's more so the what it represents. So being a mentor is not entertaining, and
Oh,
because
absolutely.
right, you know what I'm saying. So because it's not entertaining, nobody's paying attention. Nobody wants it. No, we used to. Like, I'm saying we, like I was in the '70s, but I remember watching. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at the history of it. You can tell the energy was different in the '70s, the '80s, even the '90s. We yearned for somebody to each one teach us. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is how you grow. Corn or whatever. That was entertaining. In 2024, 2025, we don't care. I'm not saying I'm a part of that, but I'm just saying as a society, we don't care. We really not trying to change the infrastructure of things. And this is gonna take me into my soliloquy so I can ask questions, okay? So hear me out on this. And I wrote this down because ain't no way I was gonna remember this. All right. My opinion, all my opinions. Let me leave with this. The powers that be killed. I'm not saying unalive for you sensitive people. I don't care. It's killed. They killed our leaders from the 60s to the 80s. I'm standing on what I said, okay? Then they brainwashed us into killing our own leaders in the 90s. Take that as you will, okay? And then from there, now we have a mental killing of social media. Social media kills our leaders for us. So as soon as a new leader arises, we do it ourselves with the social media. We look into their life background, see what's going on. So my question to everybody is, what if MLK has social media? What if El Haj Malik El Shabazz had social media? And Mike, you asked me who that was, bro. It's Malcolm X, bro. That's the name he took, bro. That's the name he took, bro. We
Yeah.
call him Malcolm X. It's low key disrespectful, but it's cool. I get it. I understand. They don't really understand the history of it, but that's his name. So if they had social media, right, will we still revere them as who they are? Because it came out later. MLK has some skeletons. You know what I mean? The other brother has some skeletons. Will we still look at them the same? Serious question.
You want Mike? Mike, you want to go answer that? Or you want me to answer?
You can go first, Pastor. Go ahead, Pastor Forrest.
Well, we look at them the same. I think the power that they had was at such a magnitude that I think they would have been bigger than they were. I think would their flaws been more exposed? Absolutely. But as black people, we are the most forgiving people on this earth. I mean, there's still people talking about let R. Kelly get out of jail, right? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, with all the evidence against him, right? And so
Mm.
I think love has a way of not overlooking someone's flaws, but superseding someone's flaws, right? So would they be as big? I think they would be bigger. If you want my honest opinion, I think they would be bigger. I think we would see them more in a humanistic
Mm-hmm.
way because as leaders, I mean, even on my levels, people have a tendency to think that you are perfect and you have a perfect world and you have a perfect marriage and you have the best kids in the world. It's like they don't realize, hey, I am just one from among you, right? But I'm still one of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so people put leaders on these like ridiculous pedestals, and we think that they're not human. It's funny because I grew up a Christian, but my dad was a Muslim, so I read Message to the Black Man. He made us read all these books. So part of it, if you take the if you one thing about, and I'll say this real quick, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I'll say this about the Nation of Islam. If you take out the religious stuff, when they came to equality, empowering, health, I mean, a black man, I don't care what color you are, you can't dispute it, right? And see, I lived up north, so we used to go to the Muslim bakeries. We used to go to the Muslim meat stores. We used to go, right? So they talked about, entrepreneurship and having the money circulate through our neighborhood and, helping your brother, looking out for your brother, supporting your brother, lifting your brother. So a lot of things that they said that if you just take the religious stuff out of it, right? And you just look at them developing you or having a desire to develop strong, powerful black men, you can't dispute that. That's just my 2 cents. I don't see where you can really dispute it because what a lot of what they said was true. You said about killing off our black men. Yeah, I mean everything that we've ever had that became successful, it was destroyed. I mean just look at Black Wall Street.
Yep. Yep.
I remember doing a paper on that in college. So when you look at any time that we have tried to economically empower ourselves, have our own, some shape or form, some way, it gets destroyed. Whether it's them putting pitting us against each other or they're just destroying it on their own, they will find a way, right? Because my dad always said this. I don't know if I can say this, so if y'all want to edit this out, that's fine. But
No, you good. Go ahead.
one of the things that white America fears the most is an educated black man.
We've said that plenty of times on here.
Okay, all right.
You good.
I so yeah, and I even see it sometimes for myself. I see it in the workplace. I see it with very intelligent, very smart. When they start debunking certain things or they give answers that you know that they're not used to hearing from a person of color, they don't know how to respond to it. They don't. I'm in a meeting the other day at work. I use a word. They thought it was funny. The owner says, "Oh, I don't think that's a word." So the HR director says, "Oh, well, let me look it up real quick." So I sat there and laughed. I said, "Well, what y'all fail to realize is I've been reading since I was 3 years old. So my vocabulary is pretty deep. I can go pretty deep with my vocabulary." They thought it was a joke, but I know what they really meant. I know what they were trying to do. I saw through it, but it's like at the end of the day, they made themselves look stupid. to me, because now you're telling me that your vocabulary is a little more shallow than mine, and you both have college educations as well. So that scared them. Wow, who is this guy? Right, and so I think, you know, though I'm a Christian, I treat everybody fair. White, black, I don't care. Spanish, I treat everybody the same. I mean, that's a reality that the level, the playing field is not, it's not level. It's gotten better, but it ain't where it needs to be.
Yep.
I respect that. Appreciate that.
Yo, that's Forrest that took all the answers and all the gems.
Sorry, man.
Nah, you good. You good. That's why I brought you on, because I knew you bring all that. So I didn't even worry about that.
So so
I
so you agree? You good?
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm just gonna add one little tidbit. Yeah, I feel as though, in my honest opinion, if they live today, with all their flaws being out in the open, I think more people would unite with them and actually probably push those two together to work together more often than not than how it was back then. Because I remember everything was silos. You saw what came out in the paper. You saw what came on the news quickly. It wasn't like an instant reply. I think that's the only difference I would
I agree. And if you look today, who's our black leader?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I
All
mean,
right.
you already alley ooped it, so we'll take it there. My personal opinion, we don't have one because every time we've seen one, they've killed him. So I feel, just my personal opinion, I'm speaking for me. I feel nobody has really rose to that occasion for two reasons. One, afraid to die, or just to know that you're going to die, right? It's a negative thought. And then two, again, I think it's just a black trauma thing. I don't think we're allowing anybody to take that role anymore. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody really
add.
try to rise to the occasion and take that role. Dr. Umar Johnson, I get it. You know what I mean? Kanye, easy, I get it. Like, we go in all these ways, but I don't really see anybody that's been to the limit of what
I
we
would
know.
say I would say this. I would say we probably have leaders in silos. So remember how I said before that they kept MLK and Malcolm in silos. I feel as though our leaders today are stuck in their silos and people aren't letting them expand. Because I think about it like this: when you look at the NBA, most people will point and say LeBron first, right? And then a couple other people behind them, the Stephs, the Chris Pauls, all that good stuff,
As leaders,
as leaders, right? But then when that whole shut up and dribble thing came out, everyone tried to bash LeBron on his opinions and stuff like that. But everyone still just kept him in that basketball silo. The media, and that's what I'm specifically talking about. The media. They kept him in that silo. So they didn't want to bring him over there. So it's like, I think that's what's happening more so. They're stopping that person from getting to that high point at all, crossing over. They're just keeping them in silos.
1,000%, because we're in the cancel culture, right? So, and here everything now is derived through media. Everything is media. Oh, I'll just kick him off Instagram. I'll kick him off Facebook. We won't let him do any interviews, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where everybody goes to for the news. That's where everybody goes to for. I don't think I would disagree with you on one thing. I do think that there are people willing to die for a cause.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the way this media is controlled now, it's easy to cancel somebody. Because remember, I'll say this: Malcolm Martin was the safe Negro. Malcolm was the dangerous Negro.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really fear Martin like that. They feared Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
When he said by any means necessary, he meant that, like, I will die for this. I do think we have a few people, nothing against Dr. Umar. I just disagree with a lot of the way he does things.
Yeah.
There's some truth to some of the things he says, but I mean, and I'm not picking on him,
Mm-hmm.
but I think here's the other thing: the ones who they do let get up there and maybe say something, they're controlled. See, because it's all media, it's controlled.
Mm-hmm.
There was no social media back then. Like, you couldn't control Malcolm.
Nope.
I mean, Elijah Muhammad tried to silence him, but he just left and went and did his own thing,
Yep.
right? So it's just a different era. It's a different time. But I think about that often. Like, man, who could be the next? Just who could carry the weight of being that type of leader? You know, I'll be honest. For a while, I thought, maybe Bishop Jakes is that guy, and I'm like, all the stuff coming out and all this other stuff, and you hear other little things. It's just like, okay, so who it is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're scared to die because I think they know if they take that position, they will die.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at Farrakhan, nobody bothers him. They scared of him too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the
Mm-hmm.
FBI watching him? Oh, absolutely, they watching. They watching. They watching. So, and he says a lot of good stuff. It's just when he's another one. I listen to him sometimes. I just erase his. I just block out the theology aspects. But when he talks about, a black man, how he should carry himself and how he should eat, how he should honor his wife, and yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that stuff. You know,
Yeah.
So, what are the leader rules? What can't they do? What can't they do?
Mm. I think if there was here's the answer from, as my mentor would say, 30,000 feet in the air looking down. Okay, I would say what they can't do or what the powers that be won't allow is us uniting. They don't want that. Because when we unite, there's nothing we can't dominate. There's nothing we can't overtake, right? If you look at anything that we as people of color has infiltrated, we've dominated it.
Actual.
That's a huge fear for them. Huge fear. Okay. Even if you look at, I was sitting in a meeting, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, so just give me a quick second. I'm gonna say this. So about 3 years ago, I'm sitting in a meeting. See, people think this abortion thing is about rights. It's not about that. So I'm sitting in a meeting, and there's this study that came out that basically said the white race is not growing fast enough, right? So they gave us all this data. Okay, they're not producing enough children. They're going to be the
Mm-hmm.
minority. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? It was a church, and it was a church. It was church leaders. These were big church leaders. So one of the guys was from Africa, and he said, "You're going to see a mass influx of predominantly white churches doing whatever they can to get black leaders in their church." They're like, okay. So then he starts giving all this data. Starts giving the data, right? I'm a big data guy, right? He starts
Mm-hmm.
giving all these numbers, and he's like, yeah, well, in France they're reproducing at this rate, and in uh, this part of Europe they're reproducing at this rate, and in America they're reproducing at this rate. He's like, oh yeah, in 20 something years they'll definitely be the minority because they're not producing at a high rate. They're not. So so when you start looking at it, and now I see all this stuff happening, I'm like, huh, he was right. He was right. But these are meetings that a lot of people of color aren't privy to. We think it's about abortion rights. Oh, well, no. They're losing the reproduction rates and they're becoming a minority. That's where the fight stems from. But if you're not in those rooms a lot of times we don't get in those rooms. When you're in those rooms, you just, and I tell you, I don't say nothing. Sometimes I get invited to certain rooms, I don't say nothing. I'll sit back and just take notes. Right? I won't open my mouth. You have anything to say? Nope. Right? I'm just listening because I'm looking when he was giving us this information. I'm looking at the bigger picture, and I'm saying, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so this is what it's really all about."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's about abortion. They don't care. All of a sudden, now it's a big issue.
Well, I think I said it. I said it before. I'll say it right now. Some people were getting too many abortions. That's what it really was.
Yeah, yeah, and it was probably more of them than it was of us.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Mike, you got anything to add to that?
Nah, that's Forrest. He's knocking this out the park. I'm just chilling. I'm enjoying it.
oh man, but it's just one of them things, man. You get in those rooms and you start seeing things like, okay, so that's why you don't see a lot of black churches popping up anymore. Why? Well, if this multicultural church over here can pay a pastor $60,000 a year, which in the church world that's decent money, right? I could pay him $56,000 a year, give him some money for his house, give him a car stipend. Why would he want to go start his own?
Good point.
How the game is played. That's how the game is played. Well, we'll make it so sweet for them. We'll make them come over here. That's what they do. That's why I have a really different outlook on church. Um, because I know a lot, I've seen a lot, I know how people play the game. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love crossover because Pastor Tommy doesn't play those games. Doesn't
Straightforward.
get- No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I don't mean to go down that
You
road.
good?
Nah, you keeping it real. You keeping it real. This is what it's all about. Conversations that people don't want to have. This is legit why we do this.
I
Whew.
got I got two more bangers, and then I'm gonna leave you
Uh-oh.
alone. I promise. How many chances does a leader or even a mentor get before we demote them?
Mm,
It depends on what the failure is,
Mm.
the severity of it.
yeah.
Uh, I'm of the mindset that I don't like the way the church sometimes throw people away. I'm a big, I don't agree with that at all. I think I put it this way. I think if a man, and I'll just use the church as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a man is cheating on his wife, I don't think he should touch a pulpit a minimum of 6 months. That's just my personal, because if you get past the point to where you're not convicted for what you've done, you have no convictions, then you need some healing,
Mm.
right? Now, I don't think we throw them away, but we let them get the healing that they need, and if we can support them financially to go and get some, go off on a retreat for a few months or go somewhere and just get the help that they need. So I don't know. I think it's based on the severity, and then it's trust too. Like, how bad was the trust betrayed?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have told somebody something, or you could have done something that will bring my whole organization down. I told you in confidence, and now you out here spreading it. Now everybody knows what's.
What's going on? Yep.
Yeah. So I think it varies. Depends on the severity of, if it's a moral thing, you cheat. I mean, because that's like the big thing, right? Pastor cheats on his wife. Now, I'll say this: if a pastor touched a child, I don't think they ever should be back in. That's
Mm.
just me. That's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
So it's levels to it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
if you stole some money from the church. Okay, well, all right, you pay it back. Well, you're not working in accounting again, right? But I'm not going to put you. But
yep.
you know what I mean? So it's all relative to the severity of it. That would be my answer. Short answer.
Nah. I totally agree with that. There's definitely severity because I like to say this to people sometimes when people look at use church as an example, leaders, right? And even though we try to hold everyone on equal footing, when you're a leader and you're over people, that's a slightly higher level. So it kind of levels to this thing, because you're not just being accountable for yourself, but it's a whole bunch of people that's under you, and you don't even know how you may be affecting them if you're not in the right frame of mind, spirit, or anything of that nature. So it's like, yeah, it definitely levels to the severity, because like someone on the bottom, they could cheat on their spouse or whatever, and you sit them down for a couple of months, and they can join right back up when they believe that they're ready to join up. Perfectly fine. But with a pastor or any type of leader, gotta have a little bit more severity to it, because they're not just over themselves; they're over people also. So there's levels to it too. Also,
Yeah. Influence. How much influence does this person have? Right. That plays a role in somebody just joined the church and they sleep with somebody on the worship team. All right. Well, he's not a leader. I mean, what are you gonna tell him? Hey, man, just take a break from coming to the church for. Now I'm gonna deal with the person on the praise team a lot harsher than I'm gonna deal with this guy who I know from Apple.
yeah,
Right. So, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I got one final question. I'm
Uh-oh.
I'm all about souls, okay? I'm all about saving souls. So regardless if you're a believer or not a believer, right? I'm talking to you, the listener. This is going to help you because you're going to get it from three different perspectives. So I'm throwing the question out there, right? How do you know if you are a mentor / a leader? And what if you don't want the role after you figure it out?
Oof, 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 oof. Hmm.
Y'all want me to take this first?
I'll go first. I'll go first this time. Don't worry, that's Marcus. I got you. I'll go first.
Out.
Um, the you said a mentor, right?
Mentor or leader?
Or a leader. So I look at it two ways. Leaders, right? In my honest opinion, a leader should be able to do everything that someone that's on his team can do. That doesn't mean they're doing it at that moment or have to do it, but they should be able to, right? They're supposed to be an example leader. So with that, leaders sometimes it's people are actually they're doers, and then over time they learn that people are actually following what they're doing, emulating them, and that puts them into leadership roles sometimes. Because I tell you like this: some people don't want to be leaders, but they get thrust into the role because they have the qualities of a leader, period, that they may not know themselves, or maybe they do. They just don't want to live that role. Mentor is different because you gotta want to teach other people, right? And like you can be a mentor in one thing, but not a mentor in another. So I think that answers your first question. How you know if
For
you're
sure.
yeah the mentor,
Loving it.
and what if you don't want the role? So I tell you like this, and Pastor Forrest can attest to this probably too. When I first came to our current church, Crossover, right? I was, trying to chill because my previous church, I was doing everything. Most people who knows my backstory, I was in different roles at my other church. So I just wanted to chill. But over time, people saw my abilities, saw how I handled myself, and put me in positions of leadership that I'm still doing what other people are doing, but people are also watching me. So I can't just deny it, because sometimes what God has for you, God has for you. And you just have to step into that role, no matter how you feel. Because let's say there's too many examples in the Bible where people try to go the opposite way and they get dinged because they're not going the way that they're supposed to.
That boy
and they
donut.
eventually get there. And they eventually get there. So you can not want the role as much as you want, but if it's meant for you, it's meant for you. That's how I think about that.
I agree. Can you ask me the question one more time? I'm trying to frame my.
Absolutely. How do you know you are a mentor or a leader or both? And what if you don't want the role?
Well, you know you're a leader if you have influence. If ain't nobody following you, you ain't a leader. I used to struggle with that when I was younger because people would say, "Oh, he's weird. He's cool. He's like the coolest guy in the world, but he's just sometimes he's just weird. He's just." Because all of my friends was always older than me, right? I'll tell you this quick story real quick. So I remember when I was about 7 years old, we used to go to private school. So my mom used to work, and she would give us $10 for the week. Now that's a lot of money back then. You're talking late '70s, early '80s. So we would stop by the candy store on the way. So what I would do is I went to a Catholic school. So what I would do is I would buy candy and sell it in school. Now Catholic school eating candy, chewing gum was like a big no. Them nuns would beat the snot out you. They taught you right. So what I would do is Monday and Tuesday I would basically lease all my candy out. So I would get like lollipops for like 10 cents. I would sell them for 25 cents. But by like Wednesday or Thursday, I'd be broke because everybody got their allowance on Friday. So I would collect all my money on Friday. So one day we're walking home and my sister, I said, "Hey, you got any money on you?" And she said, "Yeah, I got $6 left." And I said, "Well, you might as well just give me that $6 because the world's going to come to an end today and you're not going to need that money." I'm 7 years old. So I didn't realize it was influence, right? I influenced her to give me all her money. So we get home, my sister is crying. She is boo-hoo crying. And so my dad says, "Why are you crying?" And she says, they used to call me Kieran, my middle name. She says, "Kieran told me the world's going to come to an end and we're all going to die." And so I gave him all my money. So, so the funny thing is, I got a spanking about it, right, for lying and taking my sister's money. But my mother did something that night that was very powerful. She sat me down on the edge of the bed and she said, "You have influence." She said, "Don't misuse the influence that God has given you." Now, seven, I'm not really getting all of that, right? But I'm just like,
Mhm.
okay. But that was the start. So influence leaders. That was the first time I realized I would consider myself a leader or I had some type of influence. Mentorship, you have to have discernment. You got to be able to discern who really wants mentorship and who just wants companionship, who just wants to hang out with you, who wants to kick it. Because I only really, right now, I'd say I probably have two guys that I really spend time with and mentor. Um, but they don't waste my time. They'll
Mhm.
call me, they'll ask me something. I'll give them a piece of it. "Hey, call me back next week and let me know how it worked out." Right now, to your question, if you don't want to do it, I think when we walk away from it, and God has placed, because God, to me, it's just from my belief system, God God is the one who ordains leaders. And so if you're walking away from your God responsibility, you'll never be comfortable
Ooh, that right there.
because he will nudge you until you say, okay. He will make your life miserable.
Yep.
Pastor at church. I just didn't. I saw so many things that happened and I knew so many things that happened behind closed doors. I was like, man, I don't do that. And I'll say for like 3 years straight, people would come to our church, the last church I was at, and they would be like, you all the way in the back. You are running from God. I mean, they would just point me out. Like it was just the weirdest thing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start running and do what God called me to do. And I'll say this: it's hard, it's tough, but it's always rewarding. And the biggest thing is God will give you the grace to finish it,
Mm.
to get through. You can't do it on your own strength. You got to depend on Him. Some of the calls I get from some of these men, it'd be like, y'all wouldn't believe it, right? But it's like, I didn't know who else to call, man, but you. And it ain't got nothing to do with my ego. I understand that God has entrusted me with these men for them to call me and be a
Mm-hmm.
safe place so they don't go out and do something stupid, right?
Yep.
And do that. My wife pissed me off. I'm going to go to the strip club and I ain't coming home. Well, that's not a smart way to deal with it. But has it happened? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Pastor Forrest, I just slapped my wife because she just wouldn't shut up.
Mm.
Okay? I don't agree with it, but I understand, right? So it's rewarding. I think if you don't do what God has called you to do, you're gonna always have that void there, man. You're gonna never be comfortable. You're gonna work this job. It's just something about this job. It pay good, but I don't know. I don't like it. It's just something ain't right. It's just because you're not in your
Mm-hmm.
purpose.
Yep.
Not in your purpose. You're not doing what God called you to do. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely.
What you got to add, bro?
Hey,
He
Last
got
one.
that, man. I can see it on his face.
Yeah, you got something.
nah, y'all came in here not playing, bro. Y'all sitting here like, what?
Yeah.
Nah, y'all definitely cleaned that up. Only thing I can add is my perspective, man, and it's not much compared to what y'all just hit me with. For me, right? And this is me speaking to others, right? I'm not using myself. I think when the wisest people in the room finally come to you for counsel, you know you've arrived. You know you've arrived because they see something in you that has ranked you to that. I always, like I said, the Black Leroy thing, Bruce Leroy. You finally became student became the master. Like is that transition has to happen. In order for you to be a leader, you had to have followed. Now that goes back to what I've been saying about the foundation. I would prefer you to be following your foundation, your higher power. Then you can go on a low level, follow some of these leaders within reason. Right? I get very itchy about that word follow. But eventually you become that leader, but you can't be a leader if you never followed. You can't be a winner if you never lost. You don't know what it feels like.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's my whole thing about being a leader. Now that mentor thing, this is where I will get personal. I am 100% ready to go on trial. I'm not living in my truth when it comes to being a mentor. I know for a fact that I'm about to get hit. Well, I know I feel it. I know for a fact I'm supposed to be out here mentoring, but that's why I asked the second question. What if you don't want to do it?
Talking to yourself.
Talking to myself, right? I understand the discipline that comes from you having a foundation and your foundation just so happen to be God and you playing on God top. Like I don't need that type of discipline, right? I'm just speaking for other people that feel like me before I got healed. Okay. I'm sorry. That's why I'm putting myself on the chopping block. Once upon a time, I was a person that was like, I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't want to do it. To you, my brother, or even my sister listening, I will tell you, you have to enjoy what God has in store for you first before you sit there and enjoy what you got in store for yourself with your flesh. Let me say it in another word because y'all not listening to me. You can't enjoy what you're doing with your flesh more than you respect God. Period. That's the answer. It don't matter if you don't want to do it. You're not here to be selfish in that type of aspect. You're not here for yourself, for real, for real. You here for the next person. I don't know why people not understanding that. That is the easiest thing you can do to make it in life. Each one teach one. Give your shirt off your back to somebody else because as soon as you turn around, somebody about to give a shirt to you. It's that simple. So if you know you've been called to be a mentor, these two brothers just hit you with the hitters, right? I'm just speaking to you from my perspective, like, hey, bro, if God call upon you, like somebody telling you multiple times, the wisest counsel in the room is putting you on game, finally, and they're like, what you think? Why matter what I think? Y'all the wisest people in the room, but you got wisdom too, young brother.
Yeah, yeah.
That stings, man. That's that wake up call. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm good, Mike. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm gonna take us home. I'll take us home. It's gonna be simple though. Simple. At all episode, we've been talking about leaders, mentors. We talked about you being a leader and mentor of men, specifically Pastor Forrest. But this final question is for you. It could be short and sweet if you want it to be, which it'll probably make it because we probably mentioned it already. But with that responsibility, what is the burden that may take a toll on you, and then how you handle it personally?
If I had to say one thing, I would say patience, because I've always been you guys don't know my background, but I was hustling out in the street and very short, very just that guy, right? And I never had patience. And I still struggle with it. I've gotten better. But here's the true test. When God tells you to mentor this person, and you know you're supposed to mentor that person, they ain't doing nothing you telling them to do.
There we go with this.
Trying to walk away, but something keeps pulling you back to them, right? That's when you really have to go in your prayer closet, because I don't like dealing with impatient. I just don't have patience. And I always say this, and my wife has always told me this stuff. It's hard for me to deal with incompetent people, because my brain goes so fast sometimes, and I can figure things out so quick that in my mind I'm like, you still don't know the answer to that, right? Or it's like my grandson, like he's having some issues in his math. Okay, math was my favorite subject, so my patience with him is short. So what do? Let me get him a tutor who has the patience, because I don't. He's still my mentee. I still take care of him. I still feed him. I still clothe him. I still make sure he got everything he needs, right? But in that area, and that's another thing, a good leader knows his weakest. He knows where he needs help. He knows his weaknesses, right? So patience, man, patience for me is probably the biggest one, because, yeah, they will, but God, it's a test, because God is going to see, are you going to be as obedient and patient with him as I was with you?
Ooh, that right there.
So I'll end it with that.
Man, I ain't got nothing more to ask, nothing more to say. Pastor Forrest that came on here and hit us with a couple of haymakers and told you I'd take that home and eat on it.
Yeah,
Can you lead us out of here with prayer?
absolutely, man. That's the least I could do.
Yes, sir.
So, Father, we just thank you for anyone who's going to be listening to this podcast. I thank my two brothers who invited me on this podcast. I pray for them. I pray that every area that they may be insecure about, God, I pray that you will give them security as they rest in you. They know that they can do all things through Christ, because you are their strength. So, Father, I just pray that someone's listening to this podcast, that you will give them the strength, you will give them the fortitude to push as they lean on you. They may get weary, but in your word you say don't get weary in well doing. So there will come a time and they will get weak, but we pray that they'll see the bigger gift on the other side of the pain that they're going through. And whether it's being a mentor, whether it's being a leader, whether it's being a better husband, a better father, a better uncle, a better cousin, a better co-worker, whatever it is, wherever they fall in at, just pray that you will continue to wrap your loving arms around them and give them the strength they need to fulfill their purpose on this earth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
What up, listeners? Mike B here. Hope you enjoyed the episode. You can find us on IG at BMM_podcast. On TikTok at BMM Podcast. Facebook, just type in the Black Man Misunderstood Podcast. And then you can find the Neighborhood Therapist at the Neighborhood Therapist on IG. And you can find myself at MikeB_BMM on IG. And if you want to connect with our producer, the DJ himself, Mr. DJ Daxter, check him out at DJ Daxter on IG. Alright, folks. See y'all next week.